a seafood bar and all you can eat steak for like $50 for one person. And that's probably the most expensive restaurant in all Copacabana. Everything else is about 10 to 15 bucks per 10 to 15 bucks to 20 bucks per dish per like person to go out and eat at a restaurant. So, Churrascaria Palace, if you're going to Rio, Brazil, this is the Brazilian steakhouse that you want to go to right here. This has different cuts of like sausages and chickens and like I said, they come by with like filet mignon and different things like that, and they cut off a piece and you use your tongs to put it on your plate. You can order wine and caipirinha and things like that. But this is definitely the best Brazilian steakhouse, in my opinion, in Rio, Brazil. You can kind of see how they kind of walk around with those select cuts of meat, and they cut them off, and you just enjoy. So definitely highly recommend that. Close to, right there around, so you got Churrascaria Palace here. You've also got, I think the Italian restaurant I went to is like, on the what R Fernando Mendez Street right here. This is where like the Italian restaurant I went to. Around the corner right here on the R Divier, there's like a nice sushi restaurant that I went to right here. See if this restaurant pops up here on Google Maps. Let's see what comes up. Churrascaria Palace. All right. I think that, matter of fact, the barber shop I went to is right behind Copacabana Palace, right here. This is where the barber shop was I went to. Like I said, the sushi restaurant I went to is right over here. So, I mean, it's just an amazing, I mean, just so much stuff around. All right. Got Middle Eastern. I mean, you can pretty much use Google Maps to pretty much find everything. Right. All right. So that's pretty much, good, this, and you could pretty much type in, top Italian restaurants, top Brazilian steakhouses, pretty much, any type of food you're looking for, because, pretty much you're going to eat something different every day, right? One day you're going to eat maybe at a Brazilian steakhouse. Maybe the next day you're in the mood for sushi. Maybe the next day you're in the mood for Italian. You're going to get that cultural experience. I mean, every day you're going to do something different. And what I kind of recommend is, as my kind of rule of thumb is, the reason why I believe you need one a week to 14 days, you really don't want to try to do everything in one day, right? You don't want to, in my humble opinion, what I like to do is I like to schedule one sightseeing activity per day and one major restaurant per day. So, for example, day one, I may go to Christ the Redeemer and do that tour. And then that night, I may go to Churrascaria Palace, to the steakhouse. And then the next day, maybe I'll go to Sugarloaf Mountain and do like the cable car ride across the city. And then that night, I'll go to maybe a sushi restaurant, things like that. If you try to do more than one activity per day, sometimes you'll kind of run out of time, right? I mean, in Brazil, there's kind of a lot of like long lines sometimes when you go to places. So you definitely don't want to, I wouldn't want to schedule Christ the Redeemer and Sugarloaf in the same day, because you're going to be just burned out. And not to mention, you want to get time to kind of enjoy and take photos and just kind of relax. And you don't want your vacation to feel rushed, things like that. So, and not to mention, I would also recommend going probably earlier in the day, because typically when what I saw, there were like afternoon showers. So if you go in the morning, typically you have shorter lines to go do activities. And you'll get like better weather too, so you can take photos. There was some rainstorms kind of when I was there recently, but it was an amazing time. All right. So let's see here. So that was restaurants. And I think, I kind of talked about it, right? Just the services like, barbershops, nail salons, hair salons, facials, different things like that. If you obviously, you're going to have to buy the ticket down there, which is going to be 500 to $1,000 or so. You're going to probably spend, maybe $100 to $120 a night for a hotel or Airbnb, things like that. But so, you're going to have that initial upfront cost, but when you get there, it's going to kind of balance itself out, because now, look, I remember I was paying $6 for a full face shave. I think I paid $10 for a manicure pedicure. You go down there and go get a manicure pedicure. If you have a lady that wants to get her hair done, I think like maybe 20, $30 for her to get her hair done, things like that. So, all those services down there are going to be dirt cheap. So you're really going to make your money back, or you're going to have a good time, enjoying the lower cost of services down there. So you're really kind of, it'll balance itself out in regards to, if you were to go get a manicure pedicure here in the States, right? For, two people, you're talking about $200, right? At least 200, maybe a little bit more for a woman's manicure pedicure, because they get their nails painted, things like that. You're talking about, face shave is like $40. You're talking about going out to a steak restaurant. Let's say like Ruth Chris is going to be like, $300, $250, $300 at least for two people. So you're talking about, you can run up $1,000 just doing some of those things, where in Brazil, it may cost you, what, maybe 120, $150 for two people to do. You can go get a, face shave, manicure, pedicure, eat at a steak restaurant, do an activity. You may spend 100 to $200 in one whole day doing all that stuff. So it's definitely something, you're going to spend like, I'd probably say it's about 20 to 25% of what you would spend in the States is what you're going to spend in Brazil. Like just say you're going to spend a quarter of it, and that's where you're going to get your money back, so to speak. That's the value add that's going to happen, right? So that is that. All right, and let's talk about sightseeing. There's just so many great locations to go sightseeing in Brazil. Don't want to go through every single one because there's probably you can just type in hey, top 5 things or top 10 things to do in Rio, Brazil. So I don't want to, I wouldn't want to go through all those, but I will go and on the two major sightseeing locations, I will kind of like talk about those two, and that's going to be Christ the Redeemer and the Sugarloaf Mountain cable car tour. So, for example, I even think I have a little video here of the Christ the Redeemer. So just gonna play a couple of videos and then kind of walk through this. So, for example, let's see here. So this is when I went to Christ the Redeemer. This is actually so literally in order to get to Christ the Redeemer, you go to the Christ the Redeemer location, and then you take like a train up to the Christ the Redeemer. Actually, pause this. Make sure my screen is sharing. Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So here we go. So you're actually going to you're taking the train up to Christ. You can actually see a great view of like Copacabana and Ipanema, like the entire city. This is taking the train all the way up to go see the Christ the Redeemer statue. Just amazing. Right? Here's another video. Going up to see the Christ the Redeemer. It was a little bit cloudy that day. Just kind of the weather had to be typically, if you get a little bit better weather, get some sun, you definitely get better videos, better photos, things like that. And that's the Christ the Redeemer. All right. So just kind of, it's almost like an outlook post where you can kind of just look over and see the entire city. This is breathtaking to be up there. I think it's what is it, the 12 or 10 wonders of the world is the Christ the Redeemer. So you definitely worth checking that out. And here's one more video just overlooking the city. I think that is, I'm not sure if that's Botafogo or whatever part of town that is, just overlooking the Christ. You just see the entire Rio, Brazil. I mean, just breath. It was just gorgeous. So definitely warm, a little bit cloudy, things like that. And this is just, here's a photo I think I took of, oops, there's a photo of the Christ the Redeemer right there, just kind of like on my way up. Just everybody goes there from all over the world. And you see there's some escalators, some stairs, a couple other little sightseeing things. Anytime you go to do these sightseeing, they take photos of you, and you can get like a physical copy of a photo of you kind of walking through on your way back, things like that. Maybe it'd be like $5 for the photo, something along those lines. Okay. All right. So this is Christ the Redeemer. This was the video. And then if I go to the Christ the Redeemer, you pretty much, I said you can just go, from your hotel, you can pull your Uber up. Ubers anywhere in the city are literally like $3, $4. I think I was even commuting in from like 30 minutes away, and it was like maybe 10 to 15 bucks for an Uber. But this is pretty much, you can go to Christ the Redeemer. You can just type that into your Uber, and it'll pick you up at your hotel or your Airbnb, and it will take you right to the entrance location. But like I said, you can see the images here, from Google of Christ the Redeemer, here in Rio, Brazil. Just a great location as far as one of your tourist activities you'd want to do when you're there in Brazil.